Hey everyone, I figured today I get a chance to talk about Star Trek Nemesis, the fourth and final uh, feature film to feature the next generation cast. It was, not initially intended to be the last film to feature the next generation cast. There was going to be one more movie that was going to, wrap up the adventures of Captain Picard and the crew of the Enterprise. Ian, I think it was also supposed to feature the cast of Voyager and Deep Space Nine, which I think would have been really cool to see the three crews together, to, conclude, you know, the adventures of the next generation. But because of the poor box office result and being released, 5 days before the Two Towers, it kind of put any dampers on another film to feature the next generation cast. So Nemesis currently stands as the last film to feature the next generation cast. After seven seasons on television and four featured films and 15 years together, but they still did, the post Nemesis, novels, which I thought was really nice as a way of continuing, the adventures of Captain Picard and the crew, even if they couldn't do it in the feature format. So anyway, the basic plot, has start, it deals with like an assassination, in the Romulan Senate, by Shinzon, who becomes like the Praetor as a way of undermining the Romulan Empire and taking over. And of course, his plans for conquest and things like that. And then of course, there's also the wedding of Will Riker and Deanna Troi, who got back together, in insurrection when the metaphysic, radiation from the Baku planet, helped made them realize their feelings for one another, and reinvigorated their relationship. So, and of course, you know, Picard's also sad because his first officer of 15 years finally accepted a promotion to captaincy aboard the Titan, which would prevent him, which makes him realize this would be like the last time they don't, the crew would all be together the way they are now. And then, of course, Picard receives a priority communication from Admiral Janeway, who recently returned from, from the Delta Quadrant after, after 7 years, was, now an admiral, tells him that the Romulans, want peace with the Federation, but then, of course, along the way, it turns out to be an elaborate ruse, and of course, Picard finds out that Shinzon is a clone that in which the Romulan Empire, plan to use him, to infiltrate, the Federation with, with one of their own. But unfortunately, the plan was abandoned when the Romulan Empire, changed power, and then of course Shinzon was sentenced to the dilithium mines, and then of course, that kind of harbored his hatred against, humanity and the Romulans for what they did. And what else could I say about the film? I would say, as the Next Generation's last movie, I felt it could. I mean, it's not terrible, but it could have been a better send off, like the way the original cast crew got in the undiscovered country. And I think according to the drafts, which I think would have been cool to see Denise Crosby return as Sela, which was I think one of the initial storylines to have her return as the main villain, which I think would have been nice to give her character some closure, which didn't happen in the after the events of the unification, but it kind of have to give her some kind of closure in the post Nemesis novels. And of course, I think it would have been cool to see Sela as the return character, which I think would have been a better tie-in. For Picard, it would have been more of like a personal story. I mean, even though Tom Hardy does a good job, as Shinzo, but it kind of feels like, in a theme-wise, it kind of feels like, you know, a little too much like their version of, Wrath of Khan, which they try to intimidate with little success. And then, of course, of course, Beverly and Worf, gets, silent and hardly given anything to do, which was, rather unfortunate. But, I mean, it's kind of seemed like, in the case of the Next Generation films, it was like the Picard and Data story, while, many of the other characters were sidelined, which was, rather unfortunate. And I would say, while Nemesis, has great, terrific action scenes and great visual effects and things like that, but it could have had a better story, or they could have also used the opportunity to bring back Q, which I think would have been a cool storyline to see, but too bad that never happened. So I would say, as it's like I said, as terms of the film being a send off for the next generation cast, I think it could have been much better, as they deserved it after being together for like nearly 15 years. And that would be my particular take on it. So, all right, everyone, thanks for watching.